Hello and welcome to the APS30. I'm Monica Armenta, the Executive Director of Communications for Albuquerque Public Schools. So happy you're able to join us. In the spirit of November and Thanksgiving, we thought we would focus the next 30 minutes on a wonderful program that Albuquerque Public Schools has in place and has had for a while that you probably, maybe, have never heard about before. We're going to talk about the Albuquerque Public Schools Education Foundation. And joining me today is the Executive Director of the APS Education Foundation, Phil Casaus. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you so much.
So you had to have been surprised. You've actually been the Executive Director of the foundation for 3 years now?
Actually, it is now more than 4.
Now more than 4. See, I've lost track of time. So as you went into this position, I know you were a little surprised yourself to learn about all the different facets of the foundation. A lot of foundations out there have a lot of name recognition, big budgets, a lot of staff. The APS Education Foundation is a little different.
It is. I think the foundation is interesting in a lot of different ways, and all of them were surprising to me because I had not operated a foundation before I came to APS. But I think what's really interesting about it is that it serves a lot of different clients, if you will, within the district, which is the mission statement of the district of the foundation is to aid the district in its educational goals. But within that, there are a lot of different things that go on. We work with schools, we work with different programs that are operated within the schools and also outside programs that come into schools and help students. I work with a lot of folks at a variety of different levels at APS, everything from the superintendent of schools to the folks who make sure that kids have a clean classroom every day. So it's a very, and everything in between. And it's been fun, but it's a very unique foundation to a lot of within education foundations, and it's a unique place to be because it's so much is critical now in education.
And the scope of it's amazing. I mean, we could probably spend the whole 30 minutes just talking about that. But for people who don't know, the Education Foundation is a 501c3, and the employees are employees of the district, but this is the fundraising arm for the district. And when we say that, primarily the foundation exists to help fill some of those gaps, to be able to reach out to people in the community who value public education, who want it to do well, and who are really eager and supportive to help bring some programs in that the budget doesn't really allow for anymore.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that we really try to work on is making sure that the truth is public education is a little bit like a department store. Yeah, there you can get almost anything in public education. We can teach you AP calculus, we can teach you how to play trombone, we can teach you how to do the Albuquerque Turkey song in elementary school, and we can teach you to sing an aria. It's a very, very wide range of things that the district does. And the foundation really, its mission is to support any or all of those things. Specifically, though, this foundation is really focused on 4 major initiatives within the district. One is STEM, what we call STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. The other is literacy, both reading and writing, and also financial literacy as well. We really work hard with fine arts. Fine arts is a huge program in the district. It's probably a program that can never get enough funding because fine arts can be so impactful with kids, but it's also one that faces financial limitations. And the 4th is middle and high school activities and clubs, and those are really key engagement stress points, particularly at middle school and high school. How do we keep kids, not just get kids to school, but keep them in school, keep them engaged, and what is that? What does that look like? It's a lot of times it's clubs, it's after-school activities, it's things like that. So we really work hard to support those while at the same time trying to address bigger ticket items such as the APS Clothing Bank. We're the fiduciary now for the APS Clothing Bank. The district just took control of that operation a few months ago. We've been concerned with hunger issues. We've been concerned with a lot of basic need issues that the district faces, and truthfully, I'm not sure this foundation or any foundation could adequately address all of them because they are vast.
They are.
But it's been fun trying.
And it's been fun to watch because since you joined, the foundation actually came into existence in 1995. Well, and was really, I don't want to use the word dormant, but it was a quiet little office that served a few functions, but I'm going to give you credit because you deserve it. In the last 3-4 years, you've really taken a small office, because you have 3 employees, one of them just new this last year, and we share a secretary. So you're a small place, but you've managed to do some really innovative things. And we can talk about the Horizon grants, but I'd really like people to know a little bit about A is for Art, because in theory that was such a grand idea, but I think anyone who thought about it might have been frightened at just the amount of work it would take, and you guys have pulled it off really successfully.
Well, thank you. And you're too kind, actually. I'm blessed with a great staff, and I'm blessed with a great deal of help from the district. You know, it would be very difficult to do as an outside foundation, trying to do it with our resources coming from the outside in. It would be very difficult. But thank you for the compliment on A is for Art. A is for Art is a fundraiser, an art auction, if you will, of high school student art. We run it in conjunction with the APS Fine Arts Department. And the idea really stemmed from a board member of ours, Dale Decker, a well-known architect in town, who had that idea. When I first got to the foundation, I sat down and had breakfast with Dale, and he said, you know, I've seen other districts do a lot of different things, and this was one of the things he had seen. I think he had been to Houston, and I didn't know, I'd never seen anything like it, and truthfully, I certainly had never thrown one of those. But in conjunction with the Fine Arts Department at APS, Janet Kahn, who had just retired as the head of the Fine Arts Department at APS, we really started this. And the idea is we take art from the APS Metro Show, which is the annual art show for high school students. That show is in the spring. A committee of our board, the foundation board, looks at that art and says, I wonder if that would sell. And we pick, you know, a couple of hundred pieces really, and then ask the students and their parents, would they be willing to sell that art at a percentage? The student receives 40% of every sale. The rest of the money is split between the Fine Arts Department and the foundation. Fine Arts uses their money, their part of the split, to actually put you know, materials and consumables back into classrooms at the 13 comprehensive high schools. And we use ours to put on next year's show. And so we've done fairly well with it. You always want to do better, but I've been really pleased with the sort of the traction it's gained with a lot of folks in town. The A is for Art it very much is a gala to some extent, but it's not a gala where you have to have your pinky in the air and have have a drink and all of that.
Or prom wear.
It's not prom wear.
Right.
It's really just a great way to see kids, and we have a lot of kids who come to this that are artists, see that it's exciting for them. The idea really is to make sure that our stars in this district are varied. They are not all the prototypical stars in this district, and I say that with a great deal of respect, but you don't have to have a number on your chest to be a star in this district. You don't have to be a 4.9 student, a 5.0 student. You can have great talents, and you should be recognized for those talents, and we have hundreds, if not thousands, of kids in this district at every level who are incredible artists. So we sort of showcase that, and we sell their art. We also invite APS vocal and musical groups to participate as well. And we've had, over the 4 years we've had some incredible performances by APS students. So hopefully you have a great time. We make, we make enough money to keep us going, and that's okay, because I'm a foundation guy, so we always want to make more money. We always want to raise more money. But what I really want is for kids to feel like they're really valued, that their parents feel that the things that those kids did in this district are valued, and that we can say as a district, not just as a foundation, but as a district, this is something great, and you as the community can continue to support it.
One of my favorite parts of A is for Art is talking to the students themselves, because over the years what I've heard some of the young artists say is, I never knew that anyone considered what I do to be special. And that in itself, I think, is just a great reason to host A is for Art. Can you tell us a little bit about what students have shared with you in terms of what that whole experience has been like?
Sure. You know, one of the things that I've really enjoyed with it is, and I'll give you an example from this year. We had a variety of live auction art. It's a silent and live auction. So the live auction is probably 4 or 5 pieces. And one of the students that we had, several of them actually were great. 3 of them were, one was a young lady from Rio Grande High School named Ana Oaxaca. And Ana is actually a freshman at the University of New Mexico now. And she created one of the most beautiful pieces I've ever seen. That was, when you talk to her, I got to know her over the time. We showed her piece at the city-county building, in the probate court at the county side of the building. And I got to know her and her family a little bit. And when you learn their stories, Ana came here. Ana was, came here as a very young kid from Mexico, and really has a great deal of drive and interest and passion in wanting to really contribute to the U.S. She wants to be an attorney. She wants to do great things at UNM. And when you saw the talent that she has, not just the drive, but the talent this kid has in art, this young lady has in art, it was incredible. Same thing for a young lady named Sarah Wirtz from Cibola High School. She's just lovely, and the things that she's going to go on and do. And then a young person from La Cueva, John Fatemi. All of them, when you got to know them, and you get to see that these are 3 who could represent 3,000 of our seniors. Really, they're special and unique, and yet they are like so many of our other kids. It was fabulous. It was great for me. It did my heart a lot of good. And I think that their art was really valued by the folks who were there to buy it that night. But I think more importantly, I think that the people who were there really got to and not just them, a lot of our students, they got to know some students and sort of fell in love with not only them, but sort of with the schools that they attend and what they were, the products that the district was producing.
And in my opinion, that is the most important function of the foundation. We're Albuquerque Public Schools, just by definition, because you have 142 schools, 12,000 employees, 89,000 kids. It's inevitable that you're going to have challenges. We're faced with a lot of challenges. But the foundation does a beautiful job of extending that hand out to the community and inviting them in to places they've not been to see sort of what is very common but not widely known, the really heart and soul of the district, which I think is so very important. But I also am realistic and know that it's a greater challenge now than it ever was before, because public education is just a difficult place to be right now. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of public buy-in? What does it mean to have people support foundation and public education?
Well, I'll give you an example, and it's really a very important example to me. Is we have a governing board at the foundation of, well, more than 25 people, but 25 who are voting members and are not affiliated with Albuquerque Public Schools, other than one who is a student. We are probably one of the few educational foundations in the country who actually has a student member who is actually a voter. I mean, they approve the budget. They do a lot of different things. A young lady named Haine Arizmendi from Manzano High School, and we'll have a couple new ones coming on soon. But many of our board members are movers and shakers in the community, but not just in the big business card sort of way. I've got folks who own small business. I've got folks who are APS products who really want to give back to the community in education. I have many board members who represent some of the bigger institutions in town who want to know more, A, what's going on in the schools, and B, how can they help? So our board is, one of the goals of our board, and our board president's name is Robbie Shapira. He's a vice president at Wells Fargo. One of his goals is to make sure that every member of our board makes a visit to our classrooms and our schools this year. And we're well on our way to doing that. I'm actually the host. We set up the visit and talk to the principal and anything that they want to see. We actually have them, it's really up to the board member. What do you want to see? Mm-hmm. And what might be surprising, I think, to some folks is that I've never even had anything close to somebody sort of recoiling at that. Well, I don't know if I want someone to come and see our schools. The truth is that almost every principal I've ever worked with, and I've worked with almost all of them at one time or another in my 4 years, they really want you to come in. They want to show you what they're doing. They want to show you the kids that they are working with and graduating. It's not to say they're not going to tell you about problems, because we've got them. I don't know an institution that doesn't. Right. But they are really excited about that. And so our board is excited. And so what we end up doing is, I'm not sure this is what you would call mass marketing, but I think Albuquerque is a very much a what do you hear from who you know kind of town. And what we want our board members to do is go out in the community and talk about what they've seen. The good, the not so good, the in between, that's okay. Because at the end of the day, whether it's good or not so good, you still have buy-in. You still have knowledge. And that's what I always tell folks. I'm very happy to talk to you about Albuquerque Public Schools on any subject you want to talk about. But let's go see them. Let's not just go dependent on what you may read or what you may hear or what somebody may have told you. Let's go see. Because if you don't kick the tires, how can you really buy the car? And so that's one of the things that we really try to work on.
And it is always surprising when someone who hasn't been to school, if you have kids of school age, you're there. If not, it's been years since you've been there. Right. And it's a totally different place. I mean, the whiteboards, the computers. I haven't been obviously in school in a long time, but my kids are not out that long. And still, when I go into the classroom now, it's a different place than it was last year.
I'm fascinated all the time. I have a student at Albuquerque Public Schools. I have a recent, like you, I have a recent graduate of APS. My wife happens to be a public school teacher, and a former attorney turned public school teacher is, it's sort of an interesting career path for her. But when I go and look at schools, people ask me all the time. I run into folks all the time who lament the good old days in education. And they're always a little surprised when I tell them, these are the good old days, pal. These are the good old days. And here's why. Because the rigor that kids face today is higher than at any other time in history. There's no question. The truth of the matter is, I'm not sure I'm proud to say this, but I'm not sure I could do some of my kids' homework sometimes. And I wasn't a bad student. I wasn't a great student, but I wasn't a bad student. But the rigor they're exposed to is off the charts from the time that you and I went to school. And even 10 years ago, the kinds of tools that they have to master in technology, in the varied subjects that they have to graduate with now, is really not comparable to anything that we've known in New Mexico in the history of the state. So I'm always really amazed. And then when you look at the level of staff that this district produces, the national board certifications, the folks who have gone to the level 3 licensure in New Mexico, folks with masters, people who are really well educated and really highly professional. I've got to tell you, I mean, it was a shock to me. I'm a native Albuquerquean. I was born at St. Joseph Hospital, and I've lived here most of my life. And so when I go and see what we're doing at school level, and any school, not just a certain kind of school, but any school around the city, and see what we put kids through and expect them to learn, it's impressive. Frankly, it's a little scary sometimes, because I've got a student who I really, we really work hard to make sure that he does well, but but there's no question that the standards are higher.
It is. I don't know if most people recognize just how different it is, and that requires all sorts of building programs up, supporting them, making sure you're constantly moving with all the changes, especially technology. Technology has changed the classroom so much. I want to talk just briefly about some of the success you've had, and I know you're humble, but you've had tremendous success. When you look at coming in 4 years ago, when really the fundraising part of the foundation was in its infancy, and you've now passed your first million, you've raised your first million as a foundation, that is really pretty remarkable. As you look ahead, what are some of your greatest hopes for the APS Public Schools Education Foundation?
Well, I'll tell you, any success we've had is because of the community that we're in, first and foremost, and that is partners as wonderful and diverse as Rayleigh Homes and Wells Fargo, You know, if I start mentioning one, I'm going to leave all the others out. I don't mean to do that, but we've been very fortunate in that respect. I think my hopes for the foundation are really simply this: is that what I want folks to remember in Albuquerque is if you want to help public schools in the city of Albuquerque, that what you really need to remember is that we have a foundation that really works toward strategic goals to help the district. So we are really focused on these key programs. It doesn't mean they're the only important programs, but it means that these are really key. And so, you know, literacy and math and science, those are really crucial and are going to get more crucial in the 21st century. And so what I really hope for us to do is to say, for this foundation to come to the district and say, you've got these gaps, we can fill them in, not just for a year or 2 years or even 4 years or 5. We can fill in these gaps for a long period of time so that you can really shore up what you need to shore up with whatever other funding that you have. We're not there yet. We're nowhere close. I tell people all the time we're at Foundation 2.2.
Yeah, but you're moving in that direction. And I did want to mention just quickly, because we have some video of it, that you do have many partners and people who have been very generous and kind. One of them was Shoes on a Shoestring. You had a great event at one of the stadiums this year where 5,000 new pair of shoes were brought in, and you got to see firsthand, which is not always the case, the people benefiting from the work. That had to have been a good day.
It was an amazing day. We actually did this last winter at Milne Stadium, and what we ended up doing was it was Skechers and Shoes on a Shoestring sort of combining to donate 5,000 pair of shoes, and we went to the community, we went to counselors at all our schools and said, let's invite kids who may need a pair of shoes. And so I think the event was supposed to start at 11, and it's 9:45 and people are lining up, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, this is going to be something. There's a huge amount of need in this district. 2 out of every 3 kids in this district qualify for free and reduced lunch. That is a number that I'm not sure as a senior in Sandia High School many 1,000 years ago I would have conceived of in Albuquerque, but that's the reality that we face. So what we ended up doing was, giving those shoes away, and really was the district taking over the clothing bank was a separate issue, but has now taken over the clothing bank, and we're working with the folks at APS to really create partnerships that will allow the district and the foundation, to a certain extent, be able to give kids really good clothing for a long period of time. And I think that's well on its way. The first few months have been very heartening. I think the model will change from the PTA Clothing Bank's model, and they did a wonderful job, and this district owes a huge debt of gratitude for them for decades of great work. But there's a new model in place now, and I think it's going to be really successful. And how do we define success? By getting more of what kids urgently need to them more quickly. And I think that's what our goal was with the shoes, and I think that's what our goal will be as we go through a lot of other things as well.
That's been the surprise to me working in public education, is just the urgency. There really isn't anything we work with that doesn't require immediate action, immediate deployment. So I want to end with sort of a personal question. Most people will remember you, many will remember you as the editor of the Albuquerque Tribune, and I'm curious to know how this work is different from what you did before. Now I know that's a complicated question, you can go on for a long time, but really what I'm most interested in, what has that meant to you? How is the difference in sort of those missions, or are they different?
Well, it's really funny. When I came to the foundation, I'll be honest, one of the things that I feared about it was I feared, oh my gosh, are we going to, what am I going to do? Am I going to be looking at 4 walls every day? And I came from a newsroom environment where every day was different. There was no day that was a carbon copy of the day before or any day in the past, because I was in sports and in news, and you really couldn't superimpose the day before on the day after. And what I found was it was exactly like a newsroom, that every day was very different, and the needs changed depending on a lot of different factors. So I've really enjoyed that part of the foundation, how different the days are, and trying to do good work. I think I came from a journalism background, and the journalism background, while imperfect, is really driven on one thing: is can you deliver the best possible story or information to readers given a very finite period of time. You know this. To some extent, that's how we look at the foundation. Can we do the best job we can given our resources, given our timing, and given our pluses and minuses, and really do the job? I'd like to think we do well on most days. That's not to say we do great every day. I have to be realistic. But I think what we really try to do is make sure that we understand what the most important thing is. And the most important thing is making sure that the foundation serves the students of Albuquerque Public Schools. It's really personal to me because I went to APS. I'm a graduate of APS. In my journalism career, I have covered APS and I've been critical of it, and I have, many I'm sure who worked at APS are probably, this guy works at APS. But I'm really proud of the district, and I'm really proud because my kids go to school here now, and it really matters to me that we're able to say that we're trying to at least serve many of the kids who need our help.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm a product of APS. My kids are products of APS. And I think Albuquerque is a little different in that a lot of people here have a tendency to stay here. So the school system becomes a memory. It's part of the scrapbook, right? It's part of your life.
Well, it's been really interesting to me because what I see at so many schools, particularly among the leadership now, I guess I'm old enough now to see, but I go to schools and I go, gosh, I remember him. He was a cornerback at West Mesa, or he was the quarterback at El Dorado, or I remember him as a in his first year as a coach. And in news, I've gotten to know a lot of folks in the district, and really and now I'm their colleague, and so it's been an interesting full circle.
Is everyone and anyone welcome to be a part of the foundation? And if so, how do they get in contact with you?
They can get a hold. The answer is yes, and they can get a hold of me two different ways. They can give me a call at 878-6165. Or they can email me at casaus, C-A-S-A-U-S, at aps.edu. We are always on the lookout for people who want to serve on the board. It may be the toughest job you'll ever really love. Everybody says that. And we always are on the lookout for board members. We're pretty close to capacity now, but you always are. Looking for board members is a little bit like being a recruiter on a football team or a basketball team. You're always looking for that talent out there.
And the passion, because you have a great board now, and my opinion is they're pretty passionate about what they're doing.
They are very passionate about it, and I think that's exactly what you want to have, because and this foundation has been the recipient of the work of many passionate people over the years, people who are no longer on the board. But who really helped set us on a course. And my goal long term is to make sure, my short term goal is always, if I were to ever leave the foundation, that it was in better shape than the day I walked in, and I hope that we're able to accomplish that. But the truth is that the folks who really will be able to make sure that's really in place are the folks on the board. And so that's why we're always looking for them.
Well, congratulations to you. I think you've had so far just a wonderful run with the foundation. You have a great staff, and I think it's important for people to remember they hear a lot about the needs, and APS does have great needs, and you're a wonderful department to help with those needs, but also the greater good as well. The foundation does a really wonderful job addressing science, art, math. There seems to be a reason for everyone to want to be involved, so I hope in some way that this might educate people, and maybe they'll find something they want to be involved in too. So
hope so. I think we'll it won't be for lack of trying. We'll be out there.
Okay, thank you.
You
and
bet.
Thank you for joining us. This is the APS 30. We'll see you next time.